Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
District 1. He was here.
He's here. He's right over there.
Okay. District 2.
Present.
District 3.
Present.
District 4. District 5.
District 4, I think, is online. Commissioner Forsyth, I think, is online. District 5 present.
I've asked, can y'all hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I'm
Good
here.
morning.
I need the video turned on too, but that won't work as well.
Commissioner Forsyth, we need to be able to see you. There you are. Thank you, sir.
Perfect. Thank you, Commissioner.
District 6. Here. District 7. District 8. Here. District 9. District 10.
Present.
District 11. He's online. District 12. District 13.
Here.
District 14. And District 15.
I'm here.
You have quorum, sir.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Commissioners. Today is Thursday, May 16th, 2024, 9:14 a.m. Welcome to the briefing of the Dallas City Planning Commission. Commissioners, as always, this is a time for the body to ask questions of staff. We will keep all our comments for this afternoon for the hearing. We're going to jump right into the docket and begin with the development plans that are on consent. And as far as I know, the three items are still on the consent agenda. Begin with item number 2. Mr. Pepe, you're ready to improvise, sir, right?
I just had a feeling.
Yes, your feeling is correct.
I'm happy to go right ahead.
Perfect. And we'll come back to the development plans. We'll go to the zoning consent agenda docket. Commissioners, item number 9 has come off consent. So at this point, it's 5 through 8. We'll begin with number 5 and Mr. Pepe.
Okay. Item 5, you can see, yes. So this is Z223166, and this is located in Old East Dallas area. And it's an application for an amendment to specific use permit 418 for a bed and breakfast use on property zone subarea 3 within PD number 362 with H72 Peak Suburban Addition to Neighborhood Historic District overlay on the southeast line of Gaston Avenue southwest of North Fitzhugh. And it's approximately 10,500 square feet. And the purpose of the request is to continue to allow a bed and breakfast use to operate within the existing structure. Here is this site, the surrounding uses as you see them today. There's a mix of residential around. There's single family use to the northeast, southwest, multifamily to the southeast. Farther and farther to the east, there's more multifamily to the southwest, office, single family combination across Gaston. And it's currently occupied with that bed and breakfast use. Now, bed and breakfast is a use that's unique to this PD. Definition being one dwelling unit on a lot containing 5 or fewer guest rooms or suites that are rented to occupants for 14 or fewer consecutive days. And it was approved, the original one was approved on June 9th, 2021 for 2 years, and there are minor changes to site plan, no changes to conditions beyond the time period. There's that definition again. It's a bit of an interesting sub-area. It specifically allows a mix of uses, including some light commercial ones on Gaston, multifamily, and then this bed and breakfast on the, with the subject to an SUP on this corridor. Just a little background. So here's the site as it exists today. It's the north part of the site. Looking south, home to the south. Looking across Gaston. Looking up Gaston. There's some home and office combinations across the street. Multifamily. That's a bit further up the street. And closer to the retail, it's up the street with the multifamily across the street. Here's the existing site plan as it exists today. Applicant has updated it to look a little bit more. So they got their SUP last time, they established the use. This site plan is a little more accurate to what's on the ground today. So they did propose an amendment to that. Whoa, just wanted to zoom in on it. Mainly, it changed the configuration of the parking area in the back, but they still have their required spaces that are required by the conditions in the PD. And again, no changes to those conditions except for time period. And staff recommendation is approval for a 5-year period with eligibility for automatic renewal for additional 5-year periods, subject to an amended site plan and conditions.
Ready for questions?
Oh, yeah.
Questions, commissioners? Commissioner Hampton, I can't see you if you have a question. Any question? Commissioner Hall, please.
Mr. Pepe, was the parking spaces, were they being reconfigured or were they adding to the parking, or what exactly was happening?
They're more reconfigured, and I think the site plan is the existing site plan associated with the SUP. I think it looks a little funny because if I understand it, reading the results of the last council hearing that this one is at, they might have reduced the amount of rooms, and that might lead to why they have additional parking spaces over their requirement, kind of shown in red here. That's not the case. They have less rooms than that, so they actually just have the 6 parking spaces. And so all the parking spaces are actually against the back fence at this time, and as they were on this plan, but you see 2 red ones on the left there. Those are reconfigured. Those are part of the open space outdoor area of the property now. So that's really what was changed, so that they still meet their required parking. But I assume that's the history of why the site plan looks a little odd, and now it's cleaner now.
Thank you. Any other questions, commissioners? Okay, we'll go on to the next case. Commissioners, we just realized that there's opposition on case number 8, so we'll take that one off consent as well. We'll go to case number 6.
Okay, number 6 is Z223292, and it is located in the medical district, and it's an application for a planned development district for MU3 mixed-use district uses on property zoned in MU2 mixed-use district and MU3 mixed-use district in an IR industrial research district. 2, and a specific use permit for a pedestrian skybridge on property zoned in MU2 mixed-use district. And 3, a specific use permit for a pedestrian skybridge on property on property zoned in MU2 mixed-use district and an MU3 mixed-use district, generally located on the northeast of Harry Hines Boulevard, southeast of Mockingbird Lane, and on the northeast and southwest lines of Forest Park Road. It's about 40 acres. And the purpose of the request is to allow modified development standards primarily related to uses, setbacks, floor area ratio, height, and parking, landscaping, and design standards to develop the site with hospital uses. It's like bending over just a little bit, and I couldn't get air in my lungs. Raise this up. Here's the aerial view of the site. It looks pretty different than this aerial view, as most of the site has been cleared, but this is the area of request, but it's primarily undeveloped at this time nowadays. There was medical towers there before. And so to the northeast, there's a large detention area, and across that there's a multifamily property. Those are owned by, I think, by the same hospital system. And then there's surface parking to the east, hospital to the south, due south, and then there's another hospital to the southwest, some surface parking across Mockingbird to the northwest, and then two clinic uses to the also to the northwest. And so this spans across a couple of blocks, separated by a couple streets. One of those streets would be connected to the main facility with the Sky Bridge. We'll get to that in the conceptual plan. So primarily it's mixed use too, and industrial research. It's mostly undeveloped. There's an existing kind of plant facility for the hospitals that are there today, some surface parking that supports the hospital today. Proposing a conceptual plan for the main use. They include 2 sky bridges, which per code need authorization through an SUP, 1 per. And they have the 2 sky bridges, one on Harry Hines, one on Forest Park. They also propose the design standards in close keeping with the Stemmons UT Southwest area plan. So why are we looking at a PD? Desired height is not really, you're not really capable of having the desired height or FAR in a base zoning district outside the central area. They modify their landscaping to accommodate emergency vehicles and their structures. They simplify their parking. Those aren't tools that exist in the base code in a general zoning district. Why we're looking at a PD today. So here's the site. I think I'll take a walk around. We're starting on Bomar. That's the existing plant facility on the site. More of that existing plant. I understand the plant will be replaced, as will this surface parking with a more advanced version of those. Then turn around looking on Bomar. This is kind of the eastmost corner, undeveloped of the site. When you see a garage and hospital, that's actually behind the subject site. It's the other hospital, another UT hospital. And we look southwest, more of that. I'm gonna go up Forest Park, kind of the entrance to the big pit that it is right now, and turn the corner on Treadway. Yep, that's primary body of the site. This is Treadway Street that I'm on, going down towards Harry Hines. Quick look back across Treadway. There is one parcel kind of separated on the north side that borders Mockingbird. It's undeveloped at this time. And that was what you were saying there. Here's Harry Hines. We're turning the corner on Harry Hines, going south. I don't think I risk my life on Mockingbird at this point, but we're at the entrance of what's called Paul Bass Way. It's a private drive that is used to access the other hospital to the south, the UT Southwestern Hospital to the south. Be also a combination kind of entrance for this hospital. Now we're going to turn around. Here's Forest Park, looking northeast. There's northwest. There's a couple clinics there. Other clinic use. Looking across Harry Hines at the Clements Hospital, directly across from this one. Looking at the hospital that's to the south, across Paul Bass Way. Looking at the streetscape that is on the hospital to the south. Now we can see the conceptual plan. Basically, it concentrates their main portion of the hospital in the center part of the site. They have a buried parking garage under much of this site. And then they have a couple of future expansion areas, so the north and the southwest. Those will require a development plan. They have the same conditions as you see in the docket today, but they'll require a development plan to be submitted prior to the development of those, or except in the case in which they're developed as open space or pedestrian trail use. Here's a little closer look at that. You can see, I hope, where the sky bridges are meant to be. We have one sky bridge on the southwest side that connects between the Clements Hospital and this one. And then there's a sky bridge kind of on the other side of Forest Park that connects to their big above-ground parking garage and the main hospital. Development standards, got a lot of districts built in at the base, but at the end of the day, their PD has 40-foot setbacks on Mockingbird, or on Harry Hines, 30 on Mockingbird, 20 on Forest Park, no urban form setback on Forest Park. They use the side yards generally of MU3 except for tower spacing. They don't modify the unit density. They need that additional FAR and height, and their lot coverage remains the same. Just quickly through the design standards, they have 8-foot sidewalks, 6-foot connection between Forest Park and Harry Hines, kind of laterally through the site. Pathways from the frontage of the structure, cut through any surface parking lots have to be improved to a degree, but they have to have those connections. Pedestrian scale lightings on the frontages and the internal pathway. Facades must have architectural entrances, and they have to have entrances on the facades. And street furniture is that they have to have a set of street furniture every 300 feet. 10% open space per site, because it's obviously multiple building sites, multiple parcels, but then they need to, somewhere within the PD, satisfy a 20,000 square foot contiguous open space at grade accessible by the frontage. There's limits on surface parking, and there's required parking garage screening for that one above ground garage. Landscaping, they did request some variances on landscaping. There's less site trees overall per requirement, but that's because the building footprints are very, very large, including the underground garage. So they did ask for a reduction in site trees on that. They'll have some exemptions for the soil areas when approved by the RBS because of that buried garage, but that means they can have plantings on top of it to a degree. Exemption for tree plantings that we would regularly have in parking areas, but those are exempted in the emergency vehicle access areas. And street buffer zones may increase in depth, especially along Harry Hines. They're allowed to have a deeper street buffer zone, more planting in there, have more room where they can have their sidewalk and preserve existing trees there. Just really quick, staff finds it's consistent with the Southwest Stemmons Corridor, Southwest Medical District Area Plan, calls for a walkable environment, mixed use, encouraging a mix of uses, not just the hospital. Parking reductions through parking management, transit-oriented development, connectivity through larger blocks. Find it meets that, all of those. Just need to show off the SUP site plan for Forest Park. There it is. Crosses Forest Park to connect the parking garage and the main hospital. A little zoomed in view. They have to meet all of the design standards that are built into the base code for sky bridges. There's actually a lot detailed a little bit in the report, but they have to meet those. There's still a requirement. This is the one on Harry Hines. I mentioned it here. So they have dimensional lighting and locational standards for sky bridges, and they will have to meet those. So staff recommendation is approval of 1, a plan development district for MU3 mixed-use district uses subject to a conceptual plan and conditions, approval of a specific use permit for a pedestrian bridge, sky bridge, subject to a site plan and conditions, and 3, approval of a specific use permit for a pedestrian sky bridge, subject to a site plan and conditions. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Pepe. Questions for Mr. Pepe? I've got a couple. I think there was an article in D Magazine, or at least online just a couple days ago, about the medical district where they acknowledged that it was the largest heat island in the city of Dallas and announcing a project in conjunction with the Texas Trees Foundation to green the medical district and introduce significant, park and other facilities in there. I'm looking at the map that TTF put out. Do you know if this site is covered by that grading plan, or does it fall outside the bounds of it?
My understanding is it's the northwestmost point of that plan, so it is included in it, I understand. It's the kind of the tail end at Mockingbird.
Okay. And, I mean, have they done much here to sort of green this part, or with considering the significant building footprint here, is the reduction of, well, I guess there's not much surface parking here, right? Is there any surface parking allowed on the site?
They're allowed to have surface parking, and mainly that is going to be the emergency area, but per building site, I believe it was limited to 10% of the building site can be surface parking. Yeah, and then we need to have surface parking set back more than 30 feet from those public streets. It's not a development plan that shows every single parking space on there, but we have those code limits in there. And so there are other means, like we said, to encourage the buried parking, planting on top of that garage, and of course shared parking to do what we can to discourage overparking by reducing the required minimums.
So this goes forward, is the percentage of the site occupied by surface parking likely to decrease?
Oh, over what it was.
Okay.
Now, it's a big pit right now, but if you remember what it was a couple years ago, it would significantly decrease. We're obviously not in that compliance with that 10% in the old configuration. So yes, it would get significantly greener in that regard and have a cap on what it can be. And the street buffer increase leaves room for that trees project there when it does come through here. And we have enhanced tree preservation, or at least incentives for tree preservation on Harry Hines, which is the main part where their trees remain in place.
Thank you so much, Mr. Pepe. Colleagues, any other questions for Mr. Pepe? Mr. Hall, Commissioner Hall.
Mr. Pepe, there are two sky bridges, correct?
You got it, yeah. One on Harry Hines and one on Forest Park.
One going over Harry Hines and one going over.
Yeah, Harry Hines one would connect to the Clements Hospital. I understand it'd be mainly for primarily transporting patients between, facilities in Clements to facilities in this building, as well as doctors. Whereas on the other one connects to a garage, and it connects over Forest Park directly into this building. So that's the two.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Commissioner Herbert.
Just a quick one. So Clements is a new hospital, fairly new to the medical district, and my understanding is this is connecting it to the rest of the UT Southwestern campus. Is that accurate?
Yes, Clements is there, would connect the Skybridge to that, kind of have a pretty big continuous connection.
Okay.
This one, unlike the other properties, doesn't need rezoning because it's not a state facility, but the other one's built out without the zoning on the south part, but we do obviously connect directly to that through this. And then they're required to have pedestrian connection along Paul Bass Way, would get people through the site from one side to another, and that borders on the kind of where this property borders the, I don't know the name, I haven't been able to figure out the name of the hospital to the southeast on the north side of Harry Hines, but
So
along
there's a pretty expansive sky network that works for the employees and the staff members and the patients going from one hospital to the other. Will this one be as wide as the other ones that exist where like their small buses go across them?
It's, to my understanding, it's not the little busway with where the shuttles and stuff around. It's not so a pedestrian skybridge has to be, by nature of being pedestrian skybridge, it has to be a pedestrian skybridge. It can't be primarily for motor vehicles. That one is excluded by the code. So by nature of being this, it's got to be primarily pedestrians.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else with questions on this item? I don't see anyone online either. All right, thank you, Mr. Pepe. We are on to item 7, Mr. Bate.
Good morning, Commissioners. This is case Z234-154. It is an application for an MF1A multifamily district on property zoned in R7.5A single-family district, located on the southwest corner of West Illinois Avenue and Knoxville Street, north of Broadlewood Drive, approximately 6.55 acres in size. Here we see it down in the southwestern area of the city, kind of near Cockrell Hill. An aerial map showing the existing site, currently developed, has a church on it, but you can see there it's a pretty large site. The zoning map, again, with the subject site highlighted, there's the existing church on that site, and then to the west is a CR, community retail district, with a medical clinic developed. To the north is a junior college in an R7.5A district, and it has an SUP for that junior college. To the east is single-family development. And then to the south is PD 420, which has single family, I believe, both attached and detached housing down there. The applicant intends to build multifamily on the site, and in order to do so, they request the MF1A multifamily district. These are some site photos. This is along or on West Illinois Avenue looking east, with the subject site on the right side of the photo. And we'll just kind of take a tour down here as I walk down West Illinois Avenue. We can see that generally it's, again, large site, currently has this big parking lot for a church. Here we see that medical facility that is to the west of the site. And then looking north towards the campus of the junior college and to the northeast. Then to the southwest at the site, still along West Illinois Avenue. And as we meander on down towards Knoxville Street, again, we get an idea of kind of the size of these thoroughfares here, looking away from the site and then looking at the site. And then going down Knoxville Street, again, just getting a good view of this site overall. Looking east, that's where that single family in the R7.5A district is. And to the west, then to the east with more single family, southeast. And looking south, and to the southwest. It was a little unclear with this photo, but part of the field there that you see behind a fence, that's also part of the area of request. And then in the background of the photo, you see the single family houses from PD 420. And staff recommendation is approval.
Thank you, sir. Questions, Commissioners?
I have a couple.
Yes, sir.
I don't have my notes in front of me. No, honestly, so you mentioned the single-family residents that abut that field. Along Knoxville, several streets will be approaching this site. Have they talked about a transportation plan and allowing these residents in these single-family homes the ability to get in and out of their neighborhood?
They have not brought that up during any of the discussions with me. With these general zoning changes, it's often just, it can be pretty high level in terms of what they present. Certainly that would be a good question to bring up for the applicant at the hearing today, just to get a better idea. But again, with these zoning changes, it's always high level.
Perfect. And I did look at your the case report, and on the back side where those single family kind of two-story single family homes are, will that affect the height of those buildings in the back, or if there are multiple buildings there?
Yes, so it's worth noting they both have the MF1 district has the same max height as the PD 420 of 36 feet. But in the MF1 district, you also have the RPS, or residential proximity slope requirement, which it's always kind of hard to explain it verbally. It works better visually, but my understanding of it is for the first 78 feet in proximity to that residential district, nothing can be higher than 26 feet. You have to imagine an invisible line going out from the property line that extends to infinity as a 1-to-3 ratio. So for that first 78 feet, it can't be more than 26 feet high. And then after that, every 3 feet of distance, you get an extra foot.
Gotcha. And last but not least, do you know how many units they're proposing?
I do not.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Rubin.
Just going back to the traffic question real quick, I know that in certain zoning cases, if it's of a certain, if it's estimated to generate a certain number of trips, the applicant has to provide a traffic study. I forget what the number is for that.
It is 1,000 trips, and let me check my
Was that
application here real
triggered
quick.
today on this case or not? I mean, it's MF1 and 6-ish acres.
I'm pulling up it comes in a little right below that trigger. So given here, they did mention 140 dwelling units in the traffic impact worksheet, or the trip generation worksheet, which would be 980 trips, so 20 trips below that threshold. But during our review with ZRT, or zoning review team, engineering did not raise any concerns about traffic.
Okay, great, thank you.
Commissioner Hall?
The church is vacant, it's not being used anymore.
I believe so, yes.
It's basically surrounded by parking spaces?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on this item, commissioners? We'll keep going. Thank you, sir. The next item, commissioners, has been taken off consent. We have some speakers in opposition. So will be disposed of individually.
All right, this is case Z234-168. It is an application for a specific use permit for a cemetery on property zoned IR Industrial Research, located on the south line of South Sherman Street, east of TI Boulevard, approximately 6 acres in size. We see it here, kind of the far north section of the city, right by the city limits with Richardson. This is the aerial map showing the subject site, kind of an interesting looking lot and shape. Mostly industrial looking facilities, a lot of sort of warehouses, and then to the west is the Restland Cemetery that's part of the city of Richardson. And here's the zoning map again showing kind of the overall development in the area. You are next to the city of Richardson with a cemetery immediately to the west. To the north is a variety of office buildings, and then to the west are a variety of these light industrial uses, such as auto service centers and office showrooms and warehouses. And the subject site is currently undeveloped. The applicant intends to build a cemetery on the site. In order to accomplish this, they're requesting an SUP. As some background on this as to perhaps why you haven't seen a cemetery come before this body before, the number of cemeteries in city limits was previously limited by both city code as well as state laws. But last year, the state legislature enacted and was signed into law HB 783, which allows people to file applications to open a cemetery within city limits, and otherwise cemeteries are generally controlled by Chapter 11 of the Dallas City Code. So with that state law, when it passed, the city determined that our SUP process for cemeteries, which were already listed as a use that requires an SUP, would suffice as the necessary application for these things. So on site, looking at the site, there was not much to see. They do have a lot of fencing up right now. This is on South Sherman Street, looking south of the site. Looking east towards the site, it's there in the foreground and background to the west. And then on South Sherman Street, looking southwest towards the site. Again, they've got that fencing around it. Looking west. And then looking north across the way at some of those offices that were highlighted in the zoning map. And then on South Sherman, looking northwest. And then South Sherman looking east. Here on the right-hand side of the photo, that is currently the main ingress for the site. Then looking east. This is the proposed site plan. Obviously, it's a little hard to see all the details there, but they do have all the plots listed out, as well as a general area for building a sort of pavilion, as well as a restroom and 3 parking spaces that are provided. And then this is in detail and rotated just so you can actually see it a little better. Ingress and egress would be from South Sherman Street only. There is a privacy fence proposed along the north side of the site here. Now, these are the proposed conditions. It would be the cemetery, and it would have a permanent timeline or time limit. And staff recommendation is approval.
Questions, commissioners? Commissioner Carpenter?
Mr. Bate, what was the rationale for the prohibition of new cemeteries?
I am not sure what the rationale was for the prohibition of cemeteries. I could make educated guesses, but I do not know the history behind why the city chose to limit the creation of new cemeteries. The ordinance, as I understand it, comes from back in the early 1940s.
But regardless, at this point, it's been superseded by the state law.
Yes, the state law does require that the city at least entertain applications for cemeteries. They can't just have a blanket restriction on the establishment.
We received a number of emails regarding some site constraints, challenges here. I mean, flooding, drainage area, and then there were some alluding to some legal trusteeship issues. But those issues are beyond our purview. We're supposed to make a land use decision. If there are flooding or drainage issues affecting this property that make it unsuitable for a cemetery, that would be determined by engineering at some point down the road, correct?
Correct. We did not hear any concerns from engineering at our initial zoning review team reviews. If there were additional concerns, that would come up at permitting, and the applicant would be required to address those before receiving a construction permit or a CO.
Thank you.
Commissioner Housewright.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Bate, you and I are going to learn about cemeteries together on this one, aren't we? Just a few questions that may help the commissioners. Are you aware that there is a Islamic section in the Restland Cemetery next door that is virtually full, and you're aware that this application is seeking to create more space for that community?
I am, yes. The applicant discussed that with me earlier this week.
You and I discussed the parking situation. Can you explain or just confirm that the parking shown on the site plan meets code minimum for this facility?
It does, yes. The code minimum, as I recall it, is two parking spaces for a cemetery. They are providing 3. It should be noted that in addition to what is considered, I guess, the dedicated parking spaces, there would be some amount of ability for cars to line up in a procession along the driveways as well as temporary measures, I believe.
Right, and you and I discussed possibly widening one of the drives to make sure we had the parallel parking to get some more cars on site.
Yes, the staff would not be opposed to that.
Okay, and then did we get any clarity on how to secure the site after hours, like fencing, gates, et cetera?
I did check the Chapter 11 requirements. There's no specific requirements in there for fencing or gates and such. I think that would be up to both the applicant and perhaps this body to discuss at the hearing. Looking at quickly, I pulled up on Street View. I just started looking at some cemeteries. The Restland Cemetery in Richardson, it has a variety of access roads that, as far as I can tell, are not gated. It's simply open access, and presumably there are limitations on the hours of when one can actually visit. There are also some cemeteries in Dallas that are fenced off and gated, so certainly it would be an item for discussion.
Mm-hmm. It seems like that would be particularly appropriate on a site that has really no visual surveillance from the street. Would you agree?
I think that would be appropriate.
Yeah. And lastly, I think Commissioner Carpenter raised an interesting point about some of the conflict among the beneficiaries of the trust who may actually come and speak today. Is that issue indeed outside of our purview? I understand the engineering certainly is, but if we have speakers today that raise this conflict, is that something that we need to consider or not?
I would certainly defer to Mr. Moore on perhaps the most authoritative answer, but our understanding is that whoever is listed as the owner of the land on the warranty deed for the site, in this case it is the trust and a specific trustee, they're the ones who have the ability to authorize an applicant to request a zoning change. We did receive a letter of authorization from that designee, authorizing the applicant to do so. If their trust has some sort of internal rules regarding how they come to decisions and consensus around decisions around land and whatnot, that isn't something that's for the purview of the city, but again, I would defer to Mr. Moore for authoritative answer on that.
That's correct, Commissioner Housewright. The trustee is the administrator of the trust. Trust can be revocable or irrevocable. A beneficiary wouldn't be someone who would be considered an owner. It would be the trust, and the trustee is the administrator of that estate.
Mr. Moore, if we have speakers today that are speaking on this issue, can we inquire or have them state their relationship to the trust?
I suppose we could, but again, the requirements under chapter, 4.701 says that the owners of the property have to sign the application. In this case, that's the trust, and the trustee is the administrator of that trust. So that provision of the code is satisfied by virtue of being the trustee.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much.
Vice Chair Rubin.
Yeah, just one follow-up question. First off, Mr. Bate, I think that was a really good explanation on the trust part even before we got to Mr. Moore. So thank you for that. So just to follow up, if every owner of a piece of property does need to consent to a rezoning application unless it's an authorized hearing, right?
Correct.
And if there was some question about whether a owner or a co-owner of the property had consented to a zoning application, that would be something that either the city would consider, address through the city attorney's office internally, or something that potentially the Plan Commission could take up and consider, right?
Sorry, could you say kind of the last bit of that question?
Yeah, so I mean, the question of whether a zoning application has the proper authorization from the owners is something that either the city attorney's office or this body could look into,
I
right?
believe so.
And it's just in this situation, since it's owned by a trust, we look at the trustee according to the city's attorney's office, and that's as far as it goes, right?
Correct.
That's correct,
Okay,
yes.
great, thank you.
Yes, and I'll just note that on the warranty deed, it mentions it is as the trust and then a specific person named as a trustee, only one person, and that's the person that signed the letter of authorization.
Commissioner Herbert, followed by Commissioner Shernock.
Great conversation, great discussion. We do have a problem with, in the land use stat, that cemeteries sometimes go unmanaged for whatever reason. Someone passes away, the trust goes away. Or in this situation, which is very unique and new, are those things to be considered in the future land use of the city?
I want to make sure I understand the question correctly. What you're asking is, should we consider whether the longevity of the proposed use?
The
in terms of how
longevity,
long
the maintenance, the care. We have the city's taking over cemeteries. The city's not taking care of cemeteries that have not been taken care of. Those types of particulars. Oakland Cemetery sat vacant and abandoned for years before they had a revival of people taking over it, right? So, how do we protect ourselves from those types of situations in this case?
Commissioner Herbert, I would just like to remind the body that the question is whether or not this property is suitable for a cemetery, not whether or not the operator is suitable or has the managerial skills to operate the cemetery.
Okay, even though we're talking about a SUP on the site?
That is correct, yes. It's about whether or not the site is suitable for a cemetery.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Shernock, followed by Commissioner Blair.
In the report, under economic element, you cite goal 2.1, promote balanced growth. And it says, ensure that the zoning is flexible enough to respond to changing economic conditions. I'm not clear how that applies. Can you explain more how that applies to this?
Certainly. The applicant, I think, could provide even better input on this, but I would say that one of the things that goes on here is that cemeteries are a service. You could say they're a product. They're certainly you could say a sacred thing, but they are a product where there is demand for them, and as the city grows and as people age out, there's increased demand for cemeteries and for burial plots and such. Being able to respond to that by considering something like a zoning application or an SUP in this case for cemetery, in our view, is responding to economic conditions. In this case, there's an increased demand, there's someone willing to provide the supply for it, and by issuing this SUP, it is in response to those conditions.
Commissioner Blair, followed by Commissioner Hall.
I find this absolutely fascinating. And I applaud you guys for having the fortitude to go through this. But my question is, from an SUP perspective and a land use perspective, I know you're watching me, Daniel, and a land use perspective, a SUP has a time limit. We usually put a time limit on this. Are we putting a time limit on this one? Or is this a permanent SUP? Because this is a special use permit for a cemetery on property zone IR, right?
Yes, and we would be, the proposal is for a permanent SUP, permanent time limit.
Interesting. Quite fascinating. Yeah, and the question then becomes, if there is, in the process where we can revoke an SUP, ooh, quite fascinating. How do we manage to the zoning of this particular use, and how do we manage to the longevity of this particular use, Daniel, in this particular process? How do we do that? And I don't know if this is something Commissioner Housewright has dug through, because I know he's very thorough. I don't know if this is something he's dug through and come up with an answer.
Certainly. So I think I'll try to provide an answer more so from the zoning and land use perspective. What's I think being asked of the body is to consider whether this makes sense to have set aside a part of the city, part of this land, to serve as a cemetery in perpetuity. The fact of the matter is, it is generally, when you have a cemetery, it will exist for quite a long time, especially nowadays. There's much stronger protections for cemeteries compared to in the past. I thought we all know of various burial grounds or sites that were often desecrated that someone builds over. So that is something to consider. In terms of staff's recommendation and in terms of staff's analysis of this, we look at it as a small site that is currently adjacent to a cemetery, so that makes it appropriate for being there. It is not a major dedication of land. There's even sort of just the way the lot is currently platted out that it would be hard to find many other uses for it currently. And that in perpetuity, should this area ever change, should there, for instance, be a zoning change, an authorized hearing, or some such that were to change this, that's something that would just be considered, I think, as part of the long-range planning, is they would look at this area and say, well, there's a permanent SUP for a cemetery here, so in terms of those long-range considerations and plans, they would probably find something that is appropriate for being around the cemetery.
And just to add a little bit more to that, Commissioner Blair, my understanding is that once a body is buried, it can only be exhumed by court order. So if this body were to put a time limitation on that SUP, it's not like if that SUP expired 20 years from now, we would remove the bodies. I think what we would say is you just can't bury anyone new in the cemetery.
Another question, and I don't know, and I know this is off topic, but can you give me this? When you bury a body, doesn't the family own that plat of land that we bury the body, or in Texas, is it different? So
That is my understanding, is that you get a property interest in the plot once you purchase it.
okay, so I'm gonna go back to land use, and strictly land use. I noticed there's a railroad track that abuts this before you get to the other. Is there any plans? Are these the same? Is it just the same use, or is it the same? Is it an extension of the existing cemetery?
It is the same, well, I would say the same use because it's in the city of Richardson. I don't know necessarily how they define their uses, but if it looks like a duck, walks like a duck. They're both cemeteries, but this is not an extension of Restland as far as I know. This is a private individual.
So this is a new one, it's Cemetery 1 and Cemetery 2, for lack of better description. And it has the Union Pacific Rail that separates the two.
Yes.
And the egress and ingress is coming from Sherman. So fascinating, absolutely fascinating. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Commissioner Hall, House Right, Herbert.
Well, Commissioner Blair sort of got to where I was going to go. The only access to this is via Sherman Street, is that correct?
Yes.
Is that a DART rail line that's there, or is that a commercial rail line?
I see Michael nodding his head at his dart.
It's DART, okay.
Yes.
So
Nice.
the only access would be along Sherman Street.
Yes.
Okay. And it's a very long, narrow, skinny property. There would not be access anywhere else?
No, there would not be access anywhere else.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner House Right.
Mr. Bate, could it be that your comfort level with a permanent SUP has to do with the fact that the site has remained undeveloped for several decades, has a very irregular shape and very limited visibility and access, making it not particularly viable from a commercial standpoint, although it's in a commercial district? But not to lead you too much, but that would be part of the reason why, correct?
Those would all be contributing factors that look favorably upon a permanent time period for this, among practical concerns as well.
Could your point of view also have been influenced by the fact that this has been a nuisance property with a lot of trash and dumping on the site, as well as homeless encampments?
That isn't necessarily always part of the analysis, but that certainly is something that should be considered as well as the current
So
state
would
of
you
it.
agree that a permanent SUP by a use that would be committed to taking care of the grounds could be an improvement for the neighborhood?
Yes.
Thank you.
Commissioner Herbert.
I take it the city hasn't approved a SUP or a planned development for a cemetery for quite a while, but would it be possible to have someone in the archivist division to pull some type of rules and regulations around cemeteries and how these cities regulated them? Because I'm reading information about the need for long-term management and financial stability for zoning cases in the past for cemeteries. Is it possible to get that cleared, or a question asked?
I think certainly we could talk to the archivist to find, we would need some more specific, I think, information on what to request. Chapter 11 of the city code is, I believe, the main governing portion of the city's ordinances on cemetery operation. Other than the restriction, or other than the blanket ban on new cemeteries, everything else is still in effect. It's a severable code, so you can remove that, but the rest of it's still in effect. It does have regulations around interment. It has regulations around notification to what it makes reference to a director of public health. I believe that would now be superseded by the county public health department. There's also state level regulations, and I think that would be a good question for the applicant as well in terms of the operations of it, that, to the extent that we can ask those things.
Commissioner Hazelrigh.
But Mr. Moore, isn't operation of an applicant outside the purview of this commission?
Yeah, that comes away from the land use and goes more towards the user and not the use itself.
So I think the question was historically, how do we do it? So thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, commissioners? Thank you so much. Case number 9. Also has to come off consent, Commissioners 8 and 9.
Oh, yes, I believe Andrea is going to be presenting this case.
Yes, thank you,
Thank you.
Wilson. I'm here. Good morning, commissioners. I'm going to do this presentation. Is it full screen? Do I need to do anything? We worked the case together, me and Wilson, and I also have Office for Homeless Solutions in case we have questions. So item Z234-185 is an application for the renewal number 2453 for supportive housing, is located within subdistrict 3C of PD number 714, the West Commerce Street, Fort Worth Avenue Special Purpose District. It's on the south line of 4th Avenue, is approximately 0.8 acres in area. It's in West Dallas. This is a zoning map. It is, as you can see, surrounded by PD 714. It's a little bit of a CR, community retail to the north, and a multifamily zoning to the south. This is an aerial map. The property is already developed with a building that used to be used as a hotel. The intent is to do an adaptive reuse and operate the site as supportive housing with wraparound services. As I was saying, the land uses around it, there's vacant land to the east, warehouse and retail to the west, multifamily to the south, and to the north, office and self-storage. It has a little bit of a more complex background. I think we all remember this case came in front of us in 2022 in April when we approved a new sub-district in PD 714 to create this specific use and associated regulations specifically to parking and lighting. We created, this is the definition for the use as it is in the PD, and the definition includes services to support this use. The site is not currently being operated, it's been under adaptive reuse. They didn't have a chance to start operation yet. It is planned to continue to undergo the remodeling to offer the supportive housing and services. There are no changes, and there were never proposed changes to the site layout and the building footprint. Some pictures, as I was saying, this is the existing building. You can see that there's a sign that there is interior remodeling going on or planning to be to happen. This is a view from 4th Avenue. This is the site plan. I wanted to stop a little bit and make a small remark. We were talking about this as two actually small remarks. When we were talking about this SUP in 2022, there were conversations about a different way to remodel the interior. The table that you see on the development plan, on the site plan, I'm sorry, is for parking purposes only, but it does quote 40 units. There's not a limitation on the number of units, as long as the number of units that are going to be developed or the services that are going to be developed in the interior can comply with the parking ratio, everything is good. So the site plan still applies. We're going to probably add this note to make sure that there's no interpretation that there's a cap on the number of units that are going to be assembled inside or developed inside. And then the second remark that I wanted to make is that the SUP expires actually next year. The applicant, which is Office for Homeless Solutions, decided to apply earlier so they can renew it for a number of years because they want to be done with the interior remodeling and they want to start operating it for a little bit before it comes for a true renewal, for a renewal after a little bit of operation. As I was saying, no changes to the site plan. As you can see, there are already 42, I think, parking spaces that are indicated on the site plan. These are the SUP conditions. The only change to the conditions is basically the time frame. Staff is recommending a 5 years plus automatic renewal for additional 5-year periods. And this concludes my presentation here for questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Carpenter.
Mr. Drea, what is the staff's rationale for proposing auto renewals on a, it doesn't seem to customarily be our practice for something that's a new operation. This is essentially a new operation since it has never provided any services at this location.
Yes, thank you for the question. Yes, you are right in that respect. We are looking more with an angle that this is a public service type of use and offers housing for people in need. We also know that if there are any issues that we will foresee at automatic renewal, it automatically will get us to recommend it or to bring it back to CPC. So we know that the auto renewals do offer that. If there is any non-compliance situation, we do have that option to bring it back to you.
Right, but to clarify, the auto renewal process is looking at compliance with the site plan. To bring it back to CPC, there would have to be 20% of the land within the notification area. The owners of that would have to file objections for whatever reason to bring it back.
Yes, or non-compliance with the site plan. So if there is an addition, if there is a problem, I don't know, the parking is not striped or stuff like that, we can always, per the code, the director has to schedule it for City Plan Commission.
Correct, but if there were just operational issues that were causing problems for the surrounding area, that would not be something the staff would automatically pick up through a site plan compliance review.
Yes, and I will give it to Christine, but what I was going to say is that we have to remember that the SUP is land use only and site plan compliance only, so the operation, we have to be careful not to detach the operator from the land use. So I would say yes, if there are other complaints, we won't get to them unless they are related to the site plan and expansions and stuff like that.
However, having been on CPC for 6.5 years, it seems that our normal practice is to award a new use a fixed time period and then, consider auto renewals after we have some kind of track record.
You are correct, and that's why we make a recommendation,
Sure.
and it's up to the body to consider that. Thank you.
Commissioner Hall, followed by Commissioner Chernow.
So this property is owned by the City of Dallas?
Yes.
Yes, and City of Dallas will operate it?
No, so the City of Dallas is going to convey it, and then it will be owned and operated by a new operator. However, within the, obviously the SUP, and there's always a, are we going to keep a right of reverter on this one? Yes, right of reverter in case it deviates from that purpose.
Will the operator be a contractor to the city or a nonprofit? I mean, what's the relationship?
So the operator is coming through a notice of funding availability. So it will be a developer bringing in an operator as well. That also, we have a good neighbor agreement that is really how you make sure that even outside of the land use, the operator and what they're doing meets with community expectations. We've had a lot of community meetings over the past 3 years that have helped shape that. The community has shaped the Good Neighbor Agreement and actually tied that to the SUP. So there are multiple triggers in there should the operator be out of alignment with what the community is expecting.
And will the City of Dallas keep ownership of the property?
So again, no, but we have a right of reverter should something happen. Let's say that they move outside of the SUP, the SUP comes back for renewal and it is denied, the property would revert back to the city. And part of that is also governed by the expectation within the Good Neighbor Agreement that, there has to be a community liaison and certain bodies within the community that have to be met with. everything from that down to, noise policies and who's allowed on the property and who's not.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Crossley, could you just please identify yourself for the record?
Yes, sorry. Christine Crosley, Office of Homeless Solutions Director.
Welcome. Commissioner Shernock.
A couple questions. Top of the list was actually already taken by Commissioner Carpenter, but I'll go to the second question here. Just so I'm clear, the unit count is not germane to what we're actually looking at today with regard to the SUP.
I'm sorry,
The
what?
unit count.
Oh, the unit count, I would say no, we didn't review it like that. We obviously are driven by the public service, the service that this use is offering.
Right. Okay, thank you. And then also, just so I'm clear and fellow commissioners are clear, just on the history here, there was an operator that pulled out from the project, and that's how we ended up where we are today. This went back out for, I don't know the technical term, but some kind of request for, proposal for a new contractor.
Yes, correct. City Square was the intended operator.
Mr. Chair, I think this is getting too much into the operator and straying away from the land use that's ultimately the issue before the body.
Understood.
I would respond to say that the change in operator and the time frame that it took with the contract and all of that did trigger, or Office for Homeless Solution wanted to be more transparent. That's why they brought it up for renewal earlier.
Mm-hmm.
More questions?
Okay. And just so we're all on the same page, it's never been operated. Is that correct?
Correct. Right now it is, down to the studs, so that it can be fully remodeled by whoever is awarded.
Perfect. Commissioner Carpenter, please.
Ms. Crossley, you referenced the Good Neighbor Agreement. Is that still binding, or was that negotiated between the neighborhood and the prior operator that's now no longer involved, or is the city a signatory to it? I don't know how that works.
Thank you for that question. So it was created by the community to be added to whichever proposer's contract is signed. So it will be binding to whomever takes over.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Commissioner Blair?
My question is for the length of the SUP. Ms. Crossley, you said that right now the building is unbuilt. It is demolished, waiting for it to be rebuilt, correct?
The interior, yes. We did asbestos abatement and took everything out of the interior. So do you have a timeline as to when you believe that this will be completed? And so is a 5-year SUP for the time it's going to take to complete it, to provide new residents into the facility, and for us, or for the city, or the residents that live around it, to make sure that that the land use is a good use of land at that spot? Yes, that's why we're recommending 5-year, not 3-year renewal. It's going to take, a lot of it will depend on the market and how developments go, but I believe about a year or so for it to have the doors open. And we wanted to make sure that the provider can have at least 2 years under their belt before they come back, so that there's a good amount of operational data there to review.
So it's demolished, SUP goes through the process, it'll be about a year and a half before the complete build out, and then 6 months to a year for it to be completely operational, and then 2 years to see underneath the belt to see if it's a good use of land at this particular spot.
I would, without having the proposal in front of me, and without knowing how the market will react, that's a conservative timeline. I hope it'll open sooner than that. We'll have more data, but at the very least, we expect to have 2 years of solid operating data.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any other questions on this item, commissioners? Yes, please.
Is there any consideration of not making the first one an automatic renewal? Because we know that sometimes things get, I know that it's a public kind of service deal, but we know that sometimes lost in translation and something just on that first year, and then come back with the automatic renewal.
And that to Commissioner Carpenter's, thank you for the question, same question. I would say from our point of view, I think we have a duty to endorse public service. It is up to the body, for sure, like you have the option to change the time frame of the recommendation and remove the auto renewals as a body.
Thank you, Commissioner Wheeler. Any other questions on this item, Commissioners? Okay, we'll keep moving. Thank you, Dr. Rudra. Commissioners, takes us to case number 10. I don't believe that there are any updates on this, are there? Oh, pardon me, sorry. Commissioner Rubin has a conflict on this item, and we'll just pause for a second, let him step out.
There are not updates.
There are no updates. Okay, thank you so much. And we'll go to number 11. No updates on 10. Yep. Okay. You want to brief it today or no? Sorry. Which one? This one?
This one, wait until 11.
Okay, we'll wait till 11. 12 is going to get held. Commissioners, for the record, item number 12 is going to be held under advisement till July 11th, and we will brief it then. Takes us to case number 13. That is also going to be held under advisement to June 6th. Would you like to brief it today, Commissioner Hall, or then, or?
Let's wait and brief it on June 6th.
Okay, we'll brief that then. I think our planners that are out on another meeting for the first two cases are still out. Is that right for the development plan?
Until 11, and thank you for that. They're working on the migration to Excella, so in all transparency, they're working to make the process better, and they couldn't get out of it, so they can be back at 11.
Then, Mr. Vanderberg, thank you for joining us, sir. Pardon me. Yeah, let's do it. Okay. Mr. Vanderberg, we're going to take a break on you, sir. So it's 10:26. Let's take a 10-minute break, Commissioners. Thank you, Commissioner.
Hey, good. How are you? What's your pin?
Commissioners, it is 10:43 a.m. We're back on the record. My apologies for the delay. Item number 14 is going to be held under advisement to July 25th. I know we do have some folks that I know want to speak on this item and some registered speakers, so we are happy to hear from anyone that is registered and would like to come down, but just know we will not be voting on this item today. We're going to hold it under advisement to the 25th of July. And we do have the team here ready to brief if someone would like it brief. Would anyone like it brief today, Commissioners? Commissioner Black.
So if we're holding this until the 25th, and I didn't look at the speaker list, do we have speakers who want to speak on this?
Yes.
So do we, in order to address those bodies that would like to speak, do we not need to know what changes is in this to be briefed on? Or can we just listen and say, no?
Yes, since we're just going to hold the item, we can take public input, and then a motion is going to be made by Commissioner Hausreich to hold the matter under advisement to the 25th. And so we can still have it brief if any of us, anyone in the body would like to have it brief. This is item number 14. The Development Code Amendment. Vice Chair Rubin.
Yeah, just a couple things to sort of understand where we're at right now. One, we've got a detailed written report on this in the docket explaining the changes, right? Okay. And then just to sort of understand how we got to where we are today, ZOAC made a motion that that requested that the city attorney's office come up with the way in which the public could continue to initiate the compliance process in light of the changes made by Senate Bill 929, right?
That is correct. ZOAC actually asked the city attorney's office and staff to come up with a way for the public to approach city council about it. We played around with that and came up with the way that we came up with you guys now, where it's more of a funding issue and then the public can still apply.
Okay, great. So ZOAC hadn't had a chance to vet the particular language that was in our docket today that city attorney's office came up with, right?
That one point, that is correct. The vast majority of the language ZOAC saw, but that one method they did not.
Thank you. That's a very important clarification. So we're kind of fresh eyes on this one particular piece of the language, which was posted in our docket on Thursday or Friday, right?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Any other questions, commissioners? Okay. Yes, sir, Commissioner Hall.
Just want to make sure that I understand, with the passage of the state law, the city has to become in compliance with the state law.
Yes, there's every legislative session, there is a lot of state laws that we move a lot of ordinances through to comply with.
So the policy that predated that is sort of out the door now.
Unfortunately, that is the case, yes.
Okay, and then, but can we sort of tweak it around the edges? Is that what ZOAC was trying to do here?
That is what ZOAC asked us to do, and we think we've done it within the bounds that we were given.
Okay, and has the city decided to set up this fund to
Right now, being at City Plan Commission, y'all will make a recommendation, as you do on all zoning amendments, and then City Council will take a look at it, and they will be they will make the final decision makers on it.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Carpenter, no? Any other questions on this item, commissioners? Okay, thank you very much. Commissioner Carpenter, am I? Sorry.
I'm all right, yes. I did have a question. What's before us as a Development Code Amendment addresses strictly non-conforming businesses, correct?
I believe so, yes.
What is there certainly have to be businesses that technically conform to their zoning that are also presenting environmental or nuisance issues. What is the city's procedure for dealing with those? If someone, is it just code compliance? Is it community prosecution?
I believe both community prosecution and code compliance would be the avenues for it. I don't want to give a drive-by opinion where I'm not actually clear of all of that, but those would be where I would go.
Thank you.
Any other questions, commissioners? Okay, thank you very much. We'll see you in July. Do we have our folks ready for our other piece? Good morning, Mayor. Well, good morning, Ms. Webb. We're going to keep this seat warm for you, so right here. Thank you for joining us. Do we have our team ready for the 3 items? They're not back until 11, right? Okay, well then let's, do we have any other outstanding items? I don't want to get into the Fort Dallas piece until we have enough time. Did we cover the whole docket? We did the whole docket, right? The development plans are not here till 11. So let's take a break. We'll start at sharp, 11 o'clock sharp. The team will be back. We'll have a little break to visit with our very special guest. We'll be back online at 11 a.m. 10:50, we'll take a 10-minute break. Good morning. Good morning, good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. One second.
Thank you for working around our schedule, by the way.
Of course.
Good morning, Commissioners. This is case Z223-273. This is an application for the automatic renewal of specific use permit number 2160 for the sale of alcoholic beverages in conjunction with a general merchandise or food store 3,500 square feet or less. The property is within sub-area 7 of Planned Development District number 366 with a D1 liquor control overlay. The site is approximately 0.2031 acres. The location map is showing the site to be northwest corner of South Buckner Boulevard and Sain Road. This is the aerial and zoning land use map. As you can see, to the east we have retail with PD 366 sub-area 1, and then restaurant with drive-through, which is the correction made. And then to the north, west, and south is a cemetery. And as well as further down to the west, we also have the undeveloped land, which is MU1. So a brief background on the SUP. In November 2015, City Council had approved it for 2 years with no auto renewal. And then in December 2018, City Council had granted the renewal for 2 years with no auto renewal. And then in November of 2020, the SUP was granted for 3 years with eligibility for auto renewal for additional 3-year periods. Therefore, the current request is the application for the first 3-year automatic renewal of SUP 2160. Although due to the non-compliance with conditions of the SUP, the application must be forwarded to CPC and Council for further action, and then further action is defined by CPC. The City Plan Commission shall make a recommendation to the City Council regarding the proposed renewal based on staff reports, field inspections, and evidence presented at its public hearing. Moving on to the SUP condition number 2, which is the site plan use and development of the property must comply with the attached site plan. During our initial site visit, we noticed that there were a couple conditions that were not meeting compliance. One of them was the dumpster screening. It was outside a screening area, but it is now in compliance from what we saw. And then landscaping is actually one of the outstanding conditions that still is not in compliance yet. There were replacement plantings installed on the site to bring it into compliance, but however, from staff, we did learn that the plant sizes were not the minimum standard required. Moving on to SCP condition number 5, which is general requirements. Use of the property must comply with all ordinances, rules, and regulations of the City of Dallas. During our initial site visit, I would say we did notice that there were gaming machines on the premises, which prompted us to further look into the CO, and that's when we found out that the CO specifically remarks that no commercial amusement inside is allowed of any kind. And we did send the feedback letter to the applicant, so they were aware of that. And after that, they had removed the gaming machines, although because there was a fire incident, we were never able to go back and inspect the site. The C-store license was currently in re-inspection at the time of the fire. And then there was an additional permit for the building addition in the north side and required inspections, but the applicant was in contact with the district inspection office at the time, but they had not been able to obtain the required permits. So these are a couple site pictures for the landscaping of the north side of the site. To the left and below, these were from the initial site visits. Per the site plan, it is noted that there needs to be 7-foot deep, thick shrubs, although as you can see, that is not planted there. Therefore, they are missing, and some of the plantings were not in the healthy condition. For the additional pictures from the applicant and the most recent site visit, as you can see, a tree was planted on the north perimeter, but it still does not meet the compliance. And then during my last visit, which was on May 10th, the site is completely barricaded. So there's no service, there's no public access to the site at the moment. This is the landscaping on Buckner Boulevard, the frontage. Per the site plan, there should have been fill-in shrubs to provide continuous screen where large shrubs are planted no closer than 24 inches on center. As you can see, those are not planted, therefore they are missing. For additional landscaping site photos, the left is from the applicant. And you can see that the fill-in shrubs are not there, or they're like missing, but not in the healthy growing condition. And the picture on the below right is from the most recent site visit, in which that's when I mentioned that the site is completely barricaded and they were not able to bring it back into compliance. This is the landscaping off of Sain Road. To the left is from the initial site visit. Again, just with the site plan notations, the fill-in shrubs needed to be there, but you can see that they're not in the healthy growing condition, therefore they needed to be removed and replaced. And in recent news, there have been a fire damage incident in which caused the entire store to be not in operation, and the site is barricaded, and that's what I've noticed on my most recent site visit. This is the existing SUP. Site plan is for reference. And per the SUP 21 conditions, staff is recommending a 1-year renewal just to see if they can be able to bring the site back into compliance. Although the existing SUP expires obviously back then, November 11, 2023, but was eligible for automatic renewal for additional 3-year periods. Therefore, staff recommendation is denial of the automatic renewal for the additional 3-year period and approval of the renewal of specific use permit 2160 for a 1-year period in lieu of the requested automatic renewal. Sorry, very wordy.
It's perfect. Thank you very much, Ms. Sahin. We have some questions for you, Commissioner Blair.
Is this a fueling station with a convenience store?
I'm sorry, can you please repeat that?
Is this a fueling station with a convenience store?
Yes.
Is the fueling station portion still operational?
No.
So with the fire, the whole operation, the fueling portion as well as the convenience store became non-operational?
It was just the general merchandise store. That's where the fire occurred, but not for the fueling station area, right? If you can jump in.
So the fueling stations, as far as we know, are still operational, but there's no access to the property at the time. So they've taken the whole property out of commission. But conceivably, if they were to open the barricades, they could still operate the fuel pumps on a, put your card in. They just couldn't do any transactions inside.
Then another question, please. If the convenience store, the fire at the convenience store brought it in a non-operational state, correct?
Could you repeat that?
The fire brought the convenience store in a completely non-operational state.
We haven't seen the inside, but it appears to be the case, yes.
So can you help me appreciate why we would, if they were in a state of non-compliancy, and it looks like their state of non-compliancy had been existing for a while, she knows what's coming. Would it not be a reasonable thought to just deny the SUP completely, and when they go through the process of getting their C-store and doing all the things, the rebuild and all the things they need to do, come back for a new SUP and let them take the time it would take them to bring it back into a state of operation, opposed to giving it a year and then we're seeing them again?
That's definitely an option. And I think the fire was sort of the weird factor here. So typically, as you all are aware, it's not very normal that we bring an automatic renewal to you. So we had told them already prior to the fire that we were going to prepare to take this to Plan Commission. But also we gave them the advice at that point that you still have the 3 weeks or whatever prior to Plan Commission, and we would advise you to work diligently to have it in compliance by the time you're at the hearing. And typically applicants would have that extra amount of time. However, the fire happened basically right after we told them we were preparing to bring it to the hearing. So in staff's estimation, I do see exactly where you're coming from, but in our estimation, they lost that additional time that they would have had. They're going to have to do a bunch of fire damage repair. It will take them time to get up and running. So rather than coming here and recommending denial, which if the fire hadn't happened, we probably would have done that. But because they didn't have the additional time, we're recommending that they be allowed to have time to bring the fire damage back, bring everything into compliance. A 1-year time frame, they'll have to come back and apply for a standard renewal at that point. So certainly the body could go with denial, but the fire was sort of the mitigating factor to us.
I have one last question, maybe two. If the recommendation, if they had not had the fire, would have been a denial, and the fire, and there is no guarantee within a year they could complete all of the repairs that are required in order to come back to this body again anyhow. Would it not, and I get what where you're going from, you being lenient and nice. Yeah, and I get that. So my question is, but in a manner of practicality, it's going to be a new store. Why not just treat it like a new store and let them go through all the processes they need to go through in order to get their permits, they rebuild, they figure out why there was a fire, blah, 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 and then come back for a new SUP and start and give everybody a brand new start.
So that's certainly, I guess, that's the question up for the body to decide at this point. However you all decide, we certainly will respect that. Staff just is recommending the 1 year, and the other option is denial. I would say, too, that if we came in with a recommendation of denial because there was no fire, and then the applicant had, in the intervening 3 weeks, brought the store into compliance, we would have then briefed it as a recommendation of approval. And so we don't have the opportunity to brief it as a recommendation of approval because there was no opportunity for them to continue working. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Commissioner Wheeler, please.
And why is it not being held? It's not, we can't hold a case?
I believe it can be held. Daniel, do you want to weigh in on that?
Yep. CPC could, at the public hearing, vote to hold this item.
And is that, maybe, that may be an option? There might be an option to hold it? Either, instead of, did they give you any indication of how far along they are in that process?
No, the fire is pretty recent. We did ask the applicant or the representative to be prepared to discuss, a realistic time frame. We haven't heard back from them on that, but I imagine they'll be here to discuss this afternoon.
Okay, I think talking to the applicant probably would be the decision maker. Okay.
Thank you. Commissioner Herbert.
Just to be sure, in consideration of other conversations had today, this is abutting a cemetery, correctly?
Yes.
Thank you.
Said that word at this body, so it's
Can I just
Gonna have
clarify
nightmares.
too that
Please.
the only portion of this operation that's actually part of the SUP is the alcohol sale element. So they can bring their convenience store and their fuel pumps into operation whether they have this SUP or not. So those things are factors that are allowed by right. It is only the alcohol sale component because it's in a D1 liquor control overlay.
That's the clarification. Thank you. And just, I'm going to just have one quick question just for clarification of the chronology where, as staff is working through the process, clearly there was issues with this location, just like there are in many that we see. And just like, the couple hundred that I've worked these, they do tend to change in that time period after staff says, we found these 7 things, you better get them in order before it gets to CPC. Quite frequently, they do. In fact, probably 99% of the time. And unfortunately, on this case, during that time period, interesting story about the fire because, I think it was in the newspaper and these other things. So I think it was probably a disgruntled employee or something. So that's kind of the backstory here. Commissioner Carpenter.
First of all, Ms. Sahin, I want to thank you for the extremely thorough analysis you did of the situation that you found on this site. I think this is the most thorough analysis of shortcomings at a site that I've ever seen. But to go to a question, I put it as a question. I guess I'm not, why are we even entertaining a possibility of an approval when the rules for granting an SUP require that a property be in compliance with all applicable codes and regulations, and we know clearly that they are not. They have not passed their 12B inspection, at least that's what's in this report. I don't know if they have, I don't know how they could at this point with a fire. But if we have asked that, in fact, these cases not come to us if these places have not passed their 12B inspection. So we have that deficiency. We have landscaping. We have unpermitted additions. So I don't understand how technically we could even legally approve this SUP.
So if this were an application for a new SUP or for a renewal, a standard renewal, we wouldn't have brought this to you because it wouldn't be ready without a C-store license. But the code is a little bit different for an automatic renewal.
But haven't they failed that already? I mean, aren't we out of that?
So on a standard renewal or a new application, we would wait it out. We would have the luxury of waiting for them to do the compliance piece. But for an automatic renewal, the code actually says at the end of the 21-day notification period, if staff finds the site not to meet the conditions of the SUP, it must be forwarded to CPC and council for further action. We just, because we're clearly sort of reassessing and shortening the timeline, this is sort of, this applicant even actually asked us about, are you doing SUPs, auto renewals differently now? And so we were basically explaining, yes, we're compressing the process based on what the code says, and it doesn't really give us the liberty as at the staff level to just give continued extensions.
Right.
So we're basically required to bring it to you, whether it's done or not.
Sure.
And then, I mean, it's.
No, it just seems to me that they failed the auto renewal process. We are out of that, and we're
Sure.
back into, do we want to extend it?
Sure. So again, I think it goes back to the mitigating factor of the fire.
All right.
That's what it comes back to. And if the fire hadn't happened, we would have recommended denial. And if they had brought it into compliance, by the time we got to CPC, we would have briefed recommendation of approval. But because of that weird fire thing, it's basically we're bringing it and saying, y'all get to decide.
Thank you.
You're
Fun
welcome.
ensues. Commissioner Housewright, question?
I believe you reported that on one of your visits to the property, there were some gaming machines that were not allowed.
Yes, that is correct. During the initial site visit, we did notice gaming machines inside the stores. And so that was kind of, well, it being one of my first auto renewals, it was kind of like a discovery. And then from staff support, we figured out that the CO remarks that you cannot have any kind of commercial amusement inside. So that's one thing that we noted.
So did that influence your recommendation, and can we take that into consideration, or is that not?
So after we sent the feedback letter to the applicant, they did remove the gaming machines, but we weren't able to conduct that final inspection.
You can take any of it into account that you would like. We're just giving it as background, and that is one piece that they did come into compliance with respect to.
Any other questions on this item, commissioners? Okay, thank you very much. Excellent job.
All right, thank you all.
So we'll go back and pick up our development plans. Commissioners, I think these are brief by request. Do we need, does anybody like any, yes? Commissioner Herbert, the first one?
Yeah, please, this first one, it's a
Let's do it.
multifamily, I like it brief, yes.
Thank you, sir. Let's do it.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
All right, this is case D223-010. It's a request for a development plan for a multifamily development. It is on approximately 12.87 acres. It's in Council District 3. It's in Plan Development District Number 521, Subdistrict S-1A, South Zone. It is located on the southwest corner of Count Wisdom Road and Mountain Creek Parkway. The purpose of the request is to allow for a multifamily development with 234 dwelling units. There's also going to be surface parking, some private parking garage, just individual ones, and then also some carports that the tenants can rent out, and then also site amenities. Here's the area map that shows the property. Kind of to the east, we have also PD 521 districts. Really all around we have 521 itself. If you look kind of northwest, we have another PD, which is 101. Here's the zoning map. Here's the conceptual plan, kind of showing the location of the property within the district. Here is the proposed development plan, showing the layout of the different multiple buildings they're going to have on site, as well as the carports highlighted. You can see those in white. The gray is for the parking, but you can see the carports in white. Here's proposed development plan for the property, and staff recommendation is approval. That concludes this presentation.
Thank you so much. Commissioner Herbert.
Yes, Ms. Blue, thank you for presenting the site. It's a very exciting site in this corridor. Although there's millions of multifamily already there, this was already planned in the PD to be an affordable unit and build out. So we're happy that this developer is on board and building it. The question is, there's a creek on site that's associated with a floodplain. Have there been discussions about saving this creek?
Yes, since it's in a floodplain, there's no structures prohibited in that creek. And then also, if there's any residential that's on any boundaries of the lot, there is a 20-foot additional setback for those areas to make sure that we just keep that green space.
Thank you. Second question, and probably last. Second to last question. I know we can't determine materials, and this is a development plan, there's not a lot there, but have there been discussions about what the facade or the attention to the facade of these buildings will be in relation to the area?
No, sir, I didn't have a discussion about that because the code doesn't require them to talk about anything. And of course, that'll be handled at permitting too, if there's any regulations.
And thank you. And lastly, did you hear any community feedback, either negative or positive, in association with this case?
No, sir, I didn't.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Blair.
I have a question. If you could go to 2-6 and then make it big for the blind.
This one?
Make it big for the blind, like me. Okay, when you see, is that the creek? Is the creek on the, go up, on the bottom?
The bottom right here.
It's backwards on your page, yes. On the, right there where it looks like you have either parking or, the creek, you said there was a 20-foot setback, is that only for where it was near the creek? And
there's a 20-foot setback along here, which is in the creek, and then also along here, there's a retaining wall here too that runs along the property.
So that retaining wall that is when you go to the furthest to when we're looking at to the right, it looks like there is a little piece of the creek that is either under the retaining wall or it touches the...
Right here, this bottom part?
Yes. Does that impede the flow of water on that creek?
Does it?
Impede the flow of water on that?
Oh, no, ma'am.
So does it touch the creek?
It doesn't.
It doesn't?
We had a discussion with engineering, and it doesn't touch the creek. The way the retaining wall is laid out here, it kind of looked like the creek goes into it, but it's actually set.
So, okay.
So it's not going to interfere any flow of the creek.
Okay, thank you.
Members, any other questions on this item? All right. Ms. Blue, I just had some quick questions on number 4, D223012. I don't need a briefing on it unless anyone else does. You sent out a landscape plan this morning that was not included in the docket, right?
Correct.
Okay.
I do apologize about that. D223011 and 12 are very similar. They're actually on the same lot, but in two different districts. And so when I was creating the staff report, I guess I was looking at both of them. And for D 223-0112, landscape was only triggered if they increased floor area of 200. So we did catch that during the review. But as I was preparing for the case in the docket, I did leave it out, so I do want to apologize. That's why I sent the landscape plan last night. I just noticed last night. I sent it last night. But I think we came up with some kind of resolution that we're going to actually present that for the next CPC and just move forward with the development plan for that case for today.
So just to be clear, have you spoken with the applicant and are they comfortable with us?
Yes,
moving
sir.
the
I
development
sent him an email. He was very graceful that I sent him an email and told him what was going on. I think their main concern is development plan because I think they have a permit in review. And so if they could get the development plan through CPC today, then they can start permitting and then we can work our way through with the landscape plan.
So we should see the landscape plan at some point in the future.
Yes,
Okay.
next CPC.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions, commissioners? Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Commissioner, since we're going to do the Fort Dallas piece, let's just take a 5-minute break to allow our folks online to make sure their cameras are on. And at 11:35, we'll come back on. Acknowledge a special guest, Councilman Narvaez. We have a warm seat for you, sir. Don't run away. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, sir. Okay, I see Tom is online. Is that Tom? That is Tom and Commissioner Hawk. Thank you. Okay, it is 11:39. We are back on the record. Commissioner, so I've asked Mr. Moore to kind of start us off with an explanation in regards to exactly what we're going to be doing here and what exactly consensus is. I think it's a first for me, so I'm hoping he can kind of walk us through exactly just mechanically what it is that we're going to do.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this was not noticed as a public hearing, and because it wasn't a public hearing, that means that the body cannot take an official vote on anything. But during the briefing, you can say what you think, and from that, staff can start to glean some direction that the body wants to go. But of course, when it comes time to actually vote on the underlying item, you can vote any way you want. Anything you say isn't binding on your vote later on down the line when Fort Dallas proper comes before the body. Does that help, Mr. Chair?
It does, but you know what? I would like to just pause a moment. We have one missing commissioner, and I would like for her to be here because I know she would want to be here.
Is there no quorum? Oh, got it. Yeah, I was curious because, like, ones who were wanting to be here, like, I thought I'm gonna be home or won't be available. Yeah, yeah. All right, let me share my screen.
Okay, commissioners. Mr. Moore, sorry, just very brief comment again about what consensus is and how we're going to reach it.
Sure. So this was not advertised as a public hearing, therefore, under the Open Meetings Act, the body cannot vote on it. However, you're free to say what you think, and from that, staff can glean sort of the direction of the body, but anything you say today doesn't bind you when the body actually votes on Forward Dallas in the upcoming meetings. Is that helpful, Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir. Thank you. So Commissioner staff needs guidance. I think there are roughly 8 or so things where we kind of need to hone in on what staff needs to prepare for our next meeting on the 17th.
Correct.
Ready for you, gentlemen.
Now, thank you all so much. Over the past few months, we've had conversations about the plan document as we're reviewing CLUP's version in terms of which direction and which updates to make. So our team is working behind the scenes, making a lot of those changes, but there are a few we just need a bit more clarity in terms of which way to go, so we can complete a completed document for you all to have by June 17th. That's going to be a tentative date, so you all can then review it and then also provide a vote or recommendation and some more input on that document. So as we continue our conversations, we're going to hone in on I think 7 questions. We send you all a slide deck just to kind of give you an overview of everything that we're looking at, but we're going to hone in on today a few items that we want to get some clarity on. So on the slide that I have on the screen, this was emailed to us as well. These are the items that we want to touch on and focus on and get some clarity as we make some edits to the document. The first one is going to be the definition of primary supporting use. That's going to be critical in terms of the next few items that we have on here, which is determining which land uses should be supporting and primary. So we want to get that clear from this body in terms of what that definition is or should be. In addition to that, getting more clarity in terms of which land uses are supporting or primary in the community residential.
Lawrence, I'm so sorry. Just my apologies, my fault. Just to make sure that we're all on the same page. These items are not staff recommendation. They're not technically the CLUP recommendation, and in fact, what's on the table today is the CLUP recommendation, and it needs to deviate from that needs a motion. And so these 7, 8 items could have been one commissioner that says, hey, what about this? It could have been 10. Right. It could have been community input. And so, just to make sure that we all know that, these items are how they were born.
100% sorry. Thank you for that clarification. So the items that we're looking at today, as we've had our conversations through these workshops, we've had input in terms of, let's look at this particular land use, let's look at this particular issue, but for staff, there wasn't clarity on which way to go with that. So these are kind of a summary of some of those items or discussion points that we had earlier, just wasn't clear direction of where to go. So we want to make sure we get clear direction on where to go, and if there's anything else in addition to what we shared today regarding each of these items, this is a time to discuss that, because we want to make sure we get everybody's opinion, everybody's thoughts, and come to a consensus of which way to go, because this next update, this is your update. This is the CPC draft plan that's going to come out of this body, so we want to make sure there's a general consensus of which way to go as staff makes those updates and changes. So thank you, Chair, for that clarification. So as we do talk through the plan, the definitions at the beginning, that's going to help to inform some place type land uses that we want to get some clarity on. Earlier on in our discussions with these workshops, I think there was just misunderstanding in terms of the place type matrix, what was primary, what was secondary. And I think a lot of the earlier suggestions that we heard might be different in terms of maybe the body's understanding today. So we just want to be crystal clear on your understanding of what that is, how we're applying that as we move forward with this. Additionally, it's going to go through the rest of these. The language in some of the other parts of this document, specifically in the implementation matrix regarding housing, there was some discussion about how the ADU action item is being worded. So we're going to talk about that. There was some feedback in terms of how we apply TOD typologies in the plan. We want to touch on that and get your insights and your thoughts on a way of addressing some of those inputs that we received. Those discussion also about the definitions of mid, low, and high rise. So we're going to talk through some of the feedback that we received, get some input regarding that. And then also, too, lastly, if we get to touch on this, as we started to talk about the relationship between historic districts, conservation districts, and NSOs, the utilization of the term, self-determination was an item that that got brought up. So if we have time to talk on that, we're going to kind of delve into what we had analyzed and what the feedback that we're getting and see how this body would like us to move forward on that. So if we're good with that quick overview, we'll kind of go straight into our discussion. And I've rearranged some of these because some of the items on here speak to the other subsequent items or following items. So this might be a little bit out of order versus what we sent you all, but still the same items that we're going to discuss today. So first, the definitions or the proposed definitions of primary and supporting use in the document. So the club version that was provided to you all didn't have that explicitly laid out. So through discussions with this body, staff and our project team developed what could be a usable definition. So I just want to make sure that we're on the same page in terms of what that definition is saying and how it's going to be used moving forward. So for primary use, the proposed, or excuse me, the potential definition would be the more prevalent and prominent land use that plays a pivotal role in characterizing the place type. Supporting use would be the less prevalent use that serves to support the primary use in a place type. So in addition to just showing this slide, I wanted to just also just add an additional slide, just kind of show the comparison in terms of the club recommendation, what we're currently looking at to review, and what Forward Dallas 06 has or hasn't. So the CPC, in terms of the potential update, was those two terms and definitions that I just elaborated on. Again, club, there was no definition that was provided. And in Forward Dallas, it touches on similar words regarding primarily, but there's no glossary that has that defined, and it doesn't define it in the text. And also to ancillary support uses, which would be close to the supporting uses, there's no definition in that as well. So as we look at what this particular set of terms would be defined as, just want to compare it to what the current document has or hasn't, and what Forward Dallas 06 has. So with that, I'm going to go back to the first slide, and then we can have a conversation on this particular item.
Vice Chair Rubin.
I'm someone who cares a lot about words, so I'm wondering if supporting is exactly what we want to get at through this sort of category 2. I agree. Primary addresses something that is more prevalent. Supporting addresses something that is, as drafted right now, addresses something that is less prevalent. I could see some of the less prevalent uses either supporting the primary uses or also complementing the primary uses. Let me just take, for example, sorry, I don't have my thing out. City residential, where there's some, retail personal services are in there as a supporting use. I don't know if, that would allow a coffee shop, a barber shop, within that place type. And, the residential uses are primary within that place type. I don't know if the support is exactly the right word to describe what those other uses would be. You know, things like a park, a community center might support the residential. In my view, you know, the retail personal service may complement the residential, so maybe serves to either support or complement the more prevalent land uses. And I may, you know, and getting back to the title, maybe a primary use or a secondary use might be the better distinction to draw there.
No, thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am. Commissioner Wheeler.
And to that, I think that during the time that we were doing our area plan, one of the things that I brought up was, first of all, being a cosmetologist and having, and young ladies, especially that I know are now getting into massages, that massage are not, especially PD 595 says massages, tattoo parlors are outlawed. Well, we went in and said, hey, we want them to be an accessory use because they fall within the same type of personal service. So a standalone massage parlor would be no, but if it's a nail shop, a barber shop, a salon, then it would be allowed and be able to be put into that use type. I mean, when you're doing your land use statement, where in the past, well, we still said the tattoo parlor, we necessarily didn't want that to be a part because of that maybe one tattoo parlor who will tattoo something dead in the center of a kid's head and we can't change it. And then to place types, I had a recommendation that with us having so many vacant city lots within South Dallas and D7, my recommendation would be that there could be greater impact on D7 than other areas. The language about infill property should be removed, and it should be left up to CPC and City Council to determine if proposed development is good for surrounding areas. Also, language to be removed is vacant properties or those with inactive land uses presenting opportunity for thoughtful in-block infill development, allowing for integration of missing middle housing types within the community, such as also representing an opportunity for additional local parks and open space amenities. Also, there should be language about the design of different housing type. More housing shouldn't be just about rooftops. It should be about building communities. If different housing types are going to be built, especially in South Dallas, it shouldn't matter that they build community. There should be green spaces for kids to play. Doors should face the street. How the buildings are assessed is important. Whereas we see that we do need missing middle. But the conversations that I'm having with those leaders and community leaders in South Dallas is we would not mind townhomes, but we do not want the shared access townhomes where you are walking out the door to an alley pretty much, and your children have nowhere to play. We want more townhomes that face streets where shared access is in the center when at all possible, so that you can have community type of bill, looking into where developers would be able to, if there is a townhome condo type bill and it's family oriented, where is a green space or something for where children can play, especially if there's not in proximity to parks. So we're building homes that are having no lot line, is built to the lot line or minimum 5-foot setbacks, but it does not help a community. It's not community driven. We need to prior those changes to the zoning codes sooner than later so that we can start to see better designs with our new development. Not every property is going to work for every housing type. We need to be clear about what different types might work. Affordability is important. How do we make sure with all the new development that people can stay in their community? And the areas where it's recommended that heavy industrial uses be transitioned to less intense uses, mixed uses, for example, Joppy. I've worked with Joppy of lately, and gave them recommendations that they had never heard of. We are not always in, PDs are something that we don't always want to create, but there's areas that need PDs. Do we need to outlaw all industrial close by? I don't think so, but I also believe that when you have a batch plant that is labeled as light industrial, but the impact is heavy, that we need to redefine what is light industrial and how do we impact those communities around it. And when I talked with Joppy, I 100% told them I can't say because there's a cabinet maker who just literally closed down, but they had been there for, I'm 47, so I'm gonna say 47 plus years. But before there was a Home Depot, even after Home Depot, we went to them to get cabinets. They made them on site. That is light industrial. When they understood that, they were like, well, we can see that type. And so redefining and working with communities in areas, it should be clear in the plan that these areas should be prioritized for the city-initiated rezoning. These areas are largely throughout South and Southern Dallas and West Dallas. They need to be taken care of sooner than later. They may also need more detailed plans to figure out how the best transition the areas. The community has to be involved. I am all for more rooftops. I'm all for I grew up, my mother had a fourplex. My grandmother moved from Houston, lived in a fourplex, literally still on my credit report because she's my mother, so she's always in relation. So I understand fourplex. The concern in the southern sector when we're having these conversations, we do want some some small multifamily type, but the affordability is going to be, developers are not going to go down on pricing. They're going to triple. It's going to impact what that tax bracket is. So that healthy fear of being able to have some way we can still decide on, okay, if you're going to build that or you're going to maximize to the full level without any impact from the community, and then build a product that the people that live there will only be coming and going. They never will have access. They won't even be able to necessarily see their neighbor until they're passing by and going. And these concrete jungles that developers are making with townhome districts where they are lot lined, their green spaces are so limited that there's no room for a child to enjoy their community and grow up. We're not building for community, we're building for people to just live and go. And we have to be, in Dallas, we have to go back to, if I buy a house at 25, will my children be a part of that neighborhood in the next 30, 40, 50, my grandkids come back? And I don't believe that we're building those type of communities anymore. We're building for people to come and go.
Thank you very much.
No.
Yes, sir. Followed by Commissioner Carpenter.
Yes, so thank you, Commissioner Wheeler, for all those comments. I would say too, I think as you're working with, Patrick on the area plan, if you wouldn't mind sending us those comments too as well, just I think it kind of ties in with a lot what we've heard today, but we want to make sure that we document and have a way of implementing what you just mentioned. I want to touch on one thing you mentioned in terms of design and design standards. So I think through this body, through the last few workshops, I think that was something that a lot of the members mentioned that we want to see developed or kind of emphasize a bit more. Our team is going to be working on implementing that in the plan document in terms of as much as we can with a comprehensive plan, touching on design standards and how these different place types should be allowing or kind of forming what those look like depending on where it is. So that's going to be an additional component of what we talk about or what we develop in the update. For today, just those items that we have and we shared, I want to just kind of get us back to kind of those items that we just have questions on because we have limited time with you today. So I want to just make sure that the future comments and that we have and the feedback is specific to these 7 items because that's what we need to get clarity on. But I think what you just mentioned, that list that you just provided, really awesome comments. We'd love to just have that to document and address much of what you just mentioned. Thank you.
So this is the one item now that you need consensus on?
Yes, please.
Okay. And then,
Yes. So I think
we're doing item number.
right now, we're just focusing on what's on the screen, the place type, whether to wordsmith primary use or supporting use.
Yes,
Is that not
it's
correct?
item number 1. I think you sent this out, right?
Correct.
I'm sorry.
There's lots of emails flying around.
I know.
You should have this somewhere. So this is item number 1.
Do you know what date he sent that on, so we can all have it in our face?
What, sorry, I can't hear what you're saying.
And like he said, there were so many emails, I don't know.
Maybe yesterday?
Monday around 1, this little
list.
document or the, oh.
Yeah, this
that.
list, yeah. I actually asked him to prepare this maybe yesterday. So I will, if you're not, if you don't have this, I mean, actually, we all have this, but if you haven't seen it, it's, I asked Lawrence to prepare it last minute.
Who was it sent
For me, frankly.
Who was it sent from?
It should be from Lawrence.
Right, and form from our secretary.
Maybe yesterday, day before, I don't know.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it'd have been Liliana?
Yes. So you should have that. So we're on number 1, definition of primary and supporting use. Commissioner Carpenter, followed by Commissioner, Shernock, Carpenter, Housewright.
Yeah, I would like to circle back to Commissioner Rubin's comments. I actually think it's, he was definitely touching on something important there. For me, I can see the term supporting use confusing the general public. I could, in one of our hot button issues with multiplex and community residential, I could see a single family owner saying, how's a fourplex or eightplex supporting me? It's not. I like the idea of using maybe complementing use. So again, and I'm not clear, are we trying to talk about the sentence that follows those two terms, primary and supporting, or are we actually talking about changing up or all of it?
So two things that are up for grabs. So one, defining what the primary or supporting, secondary, complementary, whatever synonym we want to use. We can provide that feedback today as well. That definition and those terms are going to be what helps with the other items that we want to discuss and clarify. But so the term and the definitions are what we're looking to get clarity on.
So I'm okay more or less with the sentences, and I like the idea of using a different word and maybe complementing use in lieu of supporting.
Okay.
Commissioner Carpenter, and followed by Commissioner Housewright.
I don't have any issue with the definition of primary use. Supporting use, I agree with the comments that have been made previously. I can see people easily saying in community residential that some of these denser types of uses are not supporting it. Whether it's secondary use or complementary use, I think it'd be a less prevalent use that instead of saying supporting the primary land use in a place, that maybe just complements the place type or supports the place type, or complements the primary land use, but I would definitely lose the supporting altogether. And then, moving, part of my confusion is when I look at the next slide and it says not every property may be appropriate for the range of uses described by place type. Therefore, CPC and City Council may make a determination that the least intense land use is most appropriate for a specific property or area. Then I go back to the other and I think, well, does that mean that the primary uses are the only uses that are by right? And then, being presumably the less intense land uses, and that supporting uses will, I guess, where is the dividing line? Where is the dividing line between what is by right and where a zoning process will be involved? Because I don't think anyone's going to be clear on that at the moment.
So the by right, again, that's chapter 51A. That's the land use chart that says you can do this by just pulling a permit, or you have to change your zoning, or you have to get an SUP. That's just for everybody. The matrix here says these are recommendations that say here are the primary things that could be happening in this place type. Here would be the secondary things that could be happening in the place type. It's not saying that if a case comes before you and it's R75 and someone wants to change it to build a fourplex, it's not saying, yes, that should be something that CPC would approve automatically by right. That would be something that you could take a look at the plan and say, okay, in this circumstance, it's a secondary land use that is a less prevalent land use that serves to complement the primary land uses. Does that match this specific location? It's not saying, yes, it's an automatic approval, or no, it's not an automatic denial. It's saying these are things that you can take into factor in. So part of the frustration in the current for Dallas is some of these terms aren't defined. A lot of the stuff is more vague, where it doesn't give very clear resolution as to a direction which you could go to, or information to say this is the reason why I'm voting this way. It just is a more vague notions.
And also with those two terms that we're looking at right now, those need to be looked at in the view of these place types. So for example, I was going to touch on the residential place types. We have the small town residential, we have the community residential, we have the city residential. Those represent different scales of residential in the city. The small town is more rural, community is focused more on single family and lower scale, and city residential is more the apartment, larger scale residential. So as we're looking at these land uses and definitions, the primary is going to be what you see most in that place type, and then whatever we call the secondary complementary use, that is what you definitely see in that place type as well. You know, schools can be a complementary use, et cetera, but it's less prevalent in that particular district. If we look at, for example, a hospital or a complex like Baylor, the predominant use, the primary use is the hospital, but you might have some other ancillary uses that help support that particular campus. So we're looking at just how to define the primary and the supporting or complementary uses in the place types. It's not saying that those land uses are lesser in terms of value or what we're talking about, but it's more just how are they being applied in each of these place types to define those place types.
Commissioner Hellswright.
I was just going to compliment Commissioner Rubin on his thoughtfulness about words. I like complementary uses, and I think it would help us in our residential place type conversations that will come, which we're going to need that help. So thanks.
Okay, that's consensus building. Commissioner Blair, followed by Commissioner Rubin.
I don't have any.
Okay.
Not for this particular.
Okay.
I like the fact that, well, since you, that's because my light was on. Since my light was on, I agree. I think supporting says something different than complementary. And I think what the action we're trying to get to is that we have a primary use and we have a complementary use that still blends together and works well together. So I like Commissioner Rubin's wordsmithing.
To you, sir.
Yeah, I'm not going to talk about my own wordsmithing here, but just one thing to follow up on Commissioner Carpenter's comment asking about whether primary suggests by right and supporting suggests through some other mechanism. You know, I would just want to say that I want to sort of resist that classification, because another way in which we could control supporting uses is simply by the prevalence of the zoning on the ground. There could be a general zoning change, you know, of something from, you know, some sort of residential to a small parcel being zoned for, you know, very light retail as a supporting use, and we're good there, and that's by right, you know, through that zoning change. But then if another, you know, retail zoning application comes in, then we may say it doesn't make sense here. It is a supporting use, but, you know, it's not simply a by right distinction. So I would really encourage us not to incorporate anything about by right into this portion of the document.
Yep, I would agree. Just as a city, as CPC, as staff, as council, I think sometimes because you all are used to looking at, you know, a dozen PDs every 2 weeks that have a use chart, which is a by right or not. You know, you're used to looking at authorized hearings that come before you here or there that have a this can go here, this can't go here. We don't have a lot of plans that y'all see which have that guidance that doesn't say it can and it can't. It just says this is the guidance about what could or couldn't happen here.
Commissioner Blair.
But in going down, and I agree, by right, the terminology of by right, that means you're looking at what's on the ground. And isn't the concept to stay above the ground? So anything that we're discussing that's on the ground is not for Dallas.
I just want to go back in terms of when we hear the term by right, and I just want to be clear in terms of zoning and land use. So when
I should correct that. I should say it's zoning. If you're looking on the ground, it's zoning, not land use. And what we're doing here is, and not unless I'm missing something, is land use, correct?
yes, future land use.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I would just clear, there is no by right in land use. I mean, it's as simple as that. There is no by right with land use. By right is zoning, and that's why land use provides a range of options, which is then up to this body and city council to determine within that potential range, because you're looking at 30,000 feet, what then is actually appropriate on the ground at the time a zoning application comes in. So even a primary use is not by right. It means, yes, that is the predominant use in that area, but it still might not be, if a zoning application comes in that area, that primary use may not be the most appropriate use on that particular property. So again, not by right. We're just acknowledging that some areas and some place types largely is made up of X use or uses. And then it may have those complementary uses, and those complementary uses may require more debate here at the Horseshoe about whether or not it makes sense on a given property. There may be less debate for the primary uses, but still doesn't take away your ability to debate on a particular property when it comes in.
Commissioner Carpenter.
Yeah, I'm not sure I've made myself clear before, because I guess what I was trying to go to is I think there's going to, for the public anyway, there's going to be an underlying tension between the way they understand. I think they put zoning and land use together, that they're very used to thinking, okay, I've got CR zoning or I've got R75 zoning, and the sort of the vision for that area is codified by the zoning in 51A. It says you can do this by right. I mean, if you've got R75, you can build a house if you can get the permits. And then there are other uses that you have to get an SUP, something like this. So that structure is going to be there, but we're overlaying a different type of vision, altogether. So I think there's going to be some, I mean, I get questions about this, and people use the by right, so that's where I was trying to go with the fact that 51A and the zoning is still there, but we're kind of overlaying something that introduces, some concepts and different way of looking things that people aren't quite used to.
Yeah, I think I'm going to take it. That's a great point. We're actually going to take a step back and kind of a new analogy that I hope makes sense. I use this in, I think, District 8, and that seemed to resonate with the members. So when we're talking about place types, land use, zoning, I think there's another way of thinking about that without using the jargon that we usually use. So think about just music or literature. So with those two types of things, there's something that covers the different typologies, genres. So think about music genres. You have pop, you have hip hop, you have jazz. A genre doesn't tell you what artist needs to go where. A genre doesn't tell you what song you need to listen to. It's high level. There are certain genres that say pop, where, for example, like Michael Jackson, somebody else might like Elvis. Just because I have a particular preference or land use doesn't exclude somebody else from having another one that's still within that genre. So when we come back to land use, there's some areas that are within, for example, the community place type that might be predominantly one land use, might have a few other ancillary supporting land uses, but it doesn't preclude those two land uses from not being in that particular place type. So I think when we get into looking at land use and then maybe zoning. Another, kind of going back to the music analogy, so you can have an artist, different artists within that particular genre. An artist can sing a specific song, let's say that's zoning, that has a certain cadence, certain time, certain words. But again, the genre doesn't dictate the artist. The genre doesn't dictate the song. It's a very high level and kind of has those other pieces in there. So I just wanted to say, like, as we look at like the place types, land use, and zoning, they're different concepts, but one shouldn't exclude the other. It's meant that the generality of a genre or place type is meant to capture the nuances that we see in the city or in that particular genre or typology. And as you go into certain parts of the city, some might have different preferences or more focuses on a land use or a song or zoning category, and that kind of tails down into what they or what you all might know specifically about that area or about that community.
Commissioner Herbert.
Thank you. Complementary, I think, is a good starting point in the conversation, but it doesn't, in my opinion, take away what's supporting, right? Because complementary leaves to beg what this neighbor may think is complementary to the neighborhood versus others. Another word I thought would be nice would be compatible uses, and compatible would be uses that are similar to what's on the ground already, and even complementary to what's on the ground already. But I just wanted to throw that point out that I'm afraid complementary would do just as much damage, if not more, as supportive.
Please. Commissioner Wheeler.
Again, in some cases, the accessory use in depends. It might not need a standalone use would not be a recommendation, but an accessory to that. I think Commissioner Rubin said a barbershop and a coffee shop, that's not compatible, so you wouldn't put that together. But a barbershop and maybe a cigar lounge, but but it's because of or a male, like with massages or nail use. My brain is shut today. But those accessory uses that you look at that you necessarily don't think that would be standalone, great, but it could be an accessory to another business in some kind of way. You might not have a standalone, what might be compatible, a live work here might not be compatible in another area, or a shared workspace might not be in some areas, but it would be compatible in another area. Or accessory type of deal. It could be an accessory to another business. Some apartment complexes are moving into, hey, we have this free space, why not add, and they were having problems on getting buildings where they had those other spaces, were making that shared workspace. And at first, some of those, they were having problems because the city was saying, hey, that, you have an apartment complex and this building is used for this building is used for that. But once some of them got over the hurdle, it made sense, especially post-COVID. People are working from home, don't want to be too far from home, but then necessarily working at home is not working for them, but they can use that as an additional use in that apartment complex for them to come to work, in a sense, or have a meeting in a sense and still be at home.
Can I ask a question from A? So I'm hearing some concerns about complementary. I will say from a compatibility, that's where we get into who determines compatibility. So we get that, who considers that. So I'm wondering between two now, if it's not supporting, what about complementary or secondary? I think secondary was raised, and I'm wondering what the body feels about secondary.
Vice Chair Rubin.
Yeah. I kind of like secondary for the label because it speaks to prevalence. And then when we get into the text that follows the heading, I like support or complement. I think compatibility with great respect for Commissioner Herbert, probably gets too close to the zoning considerations, and I would maybe even tweak it a little bit more to say a less prevalent use that may serve to support or complement the primary land use, which gives room for discretion about compatibility later down the road. So to summarize, I would suggest, certainly happy to hear others' feedback, that we change the second one to primary use, a less prevalent use that may serve to support or complement the primary land uses. I'd add an S in a place type is kind of what I think might be a good way to skin this cat.
Commissioner Shernock.
I'm supportive of that.
I'm supportive of that.
Me too.
We have consensus.
For the first time in years, no.
Next item, please.
One down. All right, so thank you so much. Thank you, Director Gillis, for helping us to narrow that down. So going back to our list of items, so now that we have those definitions, the terminology in place, we're gonna be going to specific slides that we sent you all first, and then if you have time to engage any other components that we sent you all, we would want to do that. But what we want to focus on next is whether to change the multiplex from a primary to a secondary use in the community residential place type. So after we send that deck to you all, there was a few questions from a few of y'all, so I just want to clarify what's on this slide and why we're going to be talking through this. So one, as we clarify what primary supporting is, secondary is, want to then show a list of discussion items and place types that we've had conversations about, either moving from primary to supporting the primary. What we have on the screen isn't staff's recommendations. This is more what we've heard from this body, either through emails, either through discussions, either through our workshops. I just wanted to kind of give a quick overview of some of those place types and the discussion points. We're going to focus in on a few of these, in particularly the community residential, the city residential, and the neighborhood mixed use, but it's more to get clarity in terms of which direction to go on these place types. And we're going to have added a few more additional clarification slides just to kind of drill down on each of those items. But this is just to give you an overview of what we've heard and what we are looking at. But you all will be providing that clarification as we continue with the conversation today.
Comments, commissioners. Commissioner Chernock, please.
So my understanding is that we're talking about multiplex now?
Yes, so now we're going to drill.
Right. So I have comments on that. So I think it's easy to fall into the trap when we're looking at this stuff to apply this kind of like what's going on in our communities now. But I just want to reiterate, these are comments that I think been said before by me and other plan commissioners. But when we're talking about a multiplex project coming into the market, currently that would need zoning entitlements. That's currently taking a year. Design development could take another year. Permitting currently is taking a year. Construction would take 2 more years. Lease up or sales would take a year. So we're talking about if this were to move forward on a timely manner from where we are today, we are talking about 6 years until these units would come into the market, and that's not even including market adaptation. Market adaptation could be 3 years. So we are hitting a moving target that is nearly a decade out. So as we go into this discussion, I would like everybody's mind to be oriented into what would be the state of our communities given the current trajectory. And we saw the multiple median statistics of the last 20 years. We are on a 10-year crash course for becoming a highly, highly unaffordable city. If that continues, what will that look like in 10 years?
Mr. Rubin.
Yeah, I think Commissioner Chernock's comments about this being a long-term plan are very wise, and we're not just looking at 1 year from now or 2 years from now. We're looking at the next 10 to 15 years, and missing middle is incredibly important to providing housing, meeting the housing needs of the city. I would lean towards keeping this as a primary land use in community residential. I hear lots of concerns from members of the community about, anything other than single-family homes, being in this place type. And, there is a group of people who think that single-family homes should be the only thing allowed, in perpetuity. And I don't know, if I'm of a piece with those individuals. I'm probably not. But there's another large constituency that has expressed concern about duplexes, multiplexes, that has really seen a lot of product that is not very good in large part due to our current zoning. I drive on Columbia into work every day, and there's a sort of a sixplex townhome development that is, there aren't entrances on the street. You enter through the garage and then you go into your home through the garage. It's all concrete in the front yard along whatever that street is. So I think the key to getting community residential to work while keeping, a meaningful opportunity for missing middle is to keep multiplexes as a primary use, but at the same time acknowledging very frankly that we need meaningful design standards for these. I don't think we need to flesh them all out right now. I don't think we can or should flesh them all out right now before we get to actual zoning, because there are a lot of, consequences that may, fall from implementing design standards, and that certainly we have not gone through the work to really think through those. So, important, to add language in the text talking about design standards for these, as Commissioner Wheeler referenced in her comments, that yes, townhomes, but maybe not the townhomes that we're seeing so prevalently right now. And then the other piece is to acknowledge that, the considerations will vary from location to location. If someone wanted to knock down the house next door to me and put a 9-plex, I might have some qualms about that myself. But that's not to say that there aren't places where multiplexes, a triplex, a quadplex would fit in a neighborhood, not necessarily mid-block, but maybe on corner lots, or maybe, as you get closer on major corridors, that I think are still a very meaningful part of a neighborhood. I mean, I live in a neighborhood right now where, I live in a single-family home. Every house on my street is a single-family home. But if you walk over 1 or 2 blocks, there are essentially 4 quadplexes that get closer to Gaston that are all sort of right next to each other, that are perfectly compatible with the neighborhood because they're 2 stories. They have entrances on the street. The parking's all in the rear. So, I think locational language, again, is really key, and we don't have to come up with all the answers on location right now, but I think the important thing is that we talk about being sensitive to location.
Now, I want to touch on your comment real quick. So in addition to, again, what we're sharing on the screen, some of the items that we just need some clarity on, what was clear during our workshops were the addition of locational language, the touch on design language, where and how should other uses be located in each place type. So that's going to be added and included in the updates. But I think just to kind of clarify, a lot of that we heard through this horseshoe, clear from staff which direction to go on that. But just kind of piggybacking to when we're going back to the multiplex here, also want to just kind of put it in perspective, what we're asking and what's on the ground now. So just on the screen, again, another clarifying slide just based on feedback I heard earlier. Last few days is what we're looking to do is either make multiplex a primary supporting, and as we look at what club provided, that was a supporting, that was a primary use. And as we look for Dallas 06, that multifamily category, which included smaller apartments, that was the specific term, that is a primary use in that building block. So as we're looking at which direction to go, I just want to put on the screen what CLUP recommended and also what's on the ground now, and have you all just provide that direction in terms of where we should go with that particular land use.
Can I ask one follow-up? You talk about language in a revision that addresses design standards and location, is that going to be coming in our May 23rd draft?
Yes, so after we get clarification on these items, the next draft will have some of that additional language based on what we heard from previous workshops. So yes, we want to address those comments, and we have a way moving forward with that.
Okay, I really look forward to seeing that and having the opportunity to look at it very closely and maybe even tinker with it, before this comes up for a final vote, because I
100%.
think that is sort of the glue that brings a lot of the loose parts
100%
together.
100%. I think as we're focusing on some items that we just need clarity on, but it makes sense. I think Commissioner Kingston has mentioned this, just to have the totality of the document to be able to understand what's happening. But we just need some key points to kind of get that direction going, so we can provide that comprehensive set for you all to then make an informed decision of a recommendation to council.
One quick little comment before I don't want to get sidetracked, but I just frankly just can't resist. It's really small type here for us to see. Could you zoom in right now? What is current Forward Dallas 2006 that's been on the books for 18 years? What does it have on the residential neighborhood building block?
So under the residential neighborhood building block, the two differences between what's currently the current club draft is that the multifamily is a primary use. In that document, it doesn't differentiate between the types of multifamily. It just says smaller apartments, and also to lodging. So a few examples: garage apartments. It talks about other type of ADU products. That's also a supporting use. So based on just us reading the text and trying to make that correlation, that's how we identify that. So multifamily and lodging were additional components in that particular building block.
This is an apples to apples comparison, and has been on the books for 18 years.
Almost 20 years, yes.
Commissioner Houseright, followed by Commissioner Kingston. Did you? I thought I saw your hand. No, you did. Yeah. Followed by Commissioner Kingston, by then Commissioner Wheeler. Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, very briefly, this is probably not helpful. I'm on the fence about the multiplex. I think I may get there. This slide in front of us is very helpful and some good context. I'm a big supporter of the ADU, townhouse, duplex, triplex dots on the, and I feel like that to Mr. Chernock's very important remarks, that even if multiplex dropped off of here, we would benefit 90% or more of the towards the goal of creating housing by way of some of these smaller types. So I'm listening. I may get there, but.
Commissioner Kingston, please.
Yeah, since you're looking for feedback, I'll just quickly say, in a rare instance, I agree with Commissioner Rubin pretty much exactly with what he said, probably much to chagrin of part of my district. I do think it's very important to have some language about thoughtfulness about location and about design standards. You know, I had a conversation yesterday with Chief Martinez and, I forget his name, maybe Jeff Mathis, who's operations director for DFNR. And I think the fire department gets a lot of blame for other people's decisions when it comes to form. And a lot of what we're seeing built, it has nothing to do with the fire department. This is the builders deciding that they want big old honking garages for our SUVs and big spaces for people to pull in and out of and turn around in, and then people blame the fire department for the form, and it's not really them. They're not going to put their equipment on driveways anyway. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity to address the form of the building within our code to make some of the smaller multifamily fit in better, not necessarily you know, in the middle of a single-family neighborhood, but, you know, on some of the thoroughfares, on the outskirts of neighborhoods where we historically see them in our communities now. And I think that that's something that really is important to include in the language of this document so that we're clearly communicating the intentions going forward in order to assuage some fears and hopefully pick up some support. Thank you.
Commissioner Wheeler.
I think maybe I did my comments too soon. You know, I seen place type. I told you all my ADD is in full drays today. Again, my community, the community I represent is in full fear, not because we don't want multifamily. When we get before this board and it's a straight zoning, the fact that design standards are not really up for discussion weighs heavily in on whether should I go for an approval process. Because yes, I might think that a multifamily project can go on this particular lot, but then the developer creates a project that is so egregious that why would the community get behind it? We have areas in South Dallas right now that were small apartment complexes that are now single-family home. Prior to CPC when I was on the area plan, I definitely commented to those small apartment complexes we still have a few. Thank God that the developer along Live Oak, Gaston, seen a vision to keep those and rehab them. Those were the type of apartment complexes where when I walk out the door, my neighbor across, my neighbor here across, I see them. We're going to have to interact because we see each other. And then so in communities where there are single family homes, those type of multifamily complexes seem more communal than those that are being built now. Also looked at me talking to some members of JOPI. They had no vision to say, hey, we don't want any apartment complexes in JOPI. But when we go to looking at a corridor that they want to have a business corridor, but what if we did a mixed use with a small amount of apartments that would also help support, but not 100, 200 unit apartment complex, but something maybe like what's on Bear Street that has upper units, or maybe 20 apartments, but in that corridor, which will bring rooftops, but will not go into making our community look like what is in Uptown. So when we're looking at the community driven, I really believe in multifamily in different aspects, but in this day and age where developers are greedy, that becomes me sitting on the fence saying, we could really use that. I know people who probably don't want to buy homes or don't even see themselves there. They want to live in their community, but they can't even afford it because we have houses. We had a whole area that had small apartment complexes and these people live there. They were torn down, became city properties for 20, 25 years. When the rezoning or their plan came in and a new PD came in, it did not include the thought of those who live in those communities. Just because I'm a renter does not mean no less than this is my neighborhood. There is people in my community who have rented. I had one lady who rented in an apartment complex for 30 years and then moved into a house because the apartment's tore down, and she lived there another 15 years. We have long-time renters in these communities, and so when it becomes that divide in Southern Dallas, I don't believe that we don't want it. I believe that it's the fear that developers have got greedy.
And to double up on that, because just the area plan that Commissioner Wheeler and myself have been working on there in South Dallas at Fair Park, which we hope to bring before CPC shortly. Again, what we heard from that community was that they weren't necessarily against like a duplex. They weren't against a structure that had 2 doors on there. They just didn't like the duplexes that were being built there, the new ones. And so we work with them on design standards that basically it's real simple. It's porches in the front, garages in the back, 2 stories in height, and a pitched roof, and a less prominent driveway. And that works in South Dallas. Might not work everywhere, but those underlying design concepts of basically the prominence of the garage and the driveway, and then the front door or the walk-up appeal does have those types of design issues pretty much in every community in every district here in Dallas. And so I think we can give some broad design guidelines to say, okay, if we're going to build some of that missing middle, here are those concepts in the underlying design guidelines that could be applicable that then goes before CPCK, so you say, yes, this is something that I'm most supportive of because the design is better than, some of the other design that's been built here recently.
In some neighborhoods, District 1, Bishop Arts area, Uptown area, they like density. They want density. They like the walkability. And then you go over to District 14 that has all these different uses that look great together, but when they were designed still with community in mind. And so I literally was telling Commissioner Kingston that there's projects that's being worked on in South Dallas, and I literally wrote that neighborhood to get an ideal of townhomes that would fit the community. And I was specifically looking for those townhomes that had front doors that were on or street front, that did not have shared access, and it was to give the project a ideal of what this should look like when we're looking at design. And also looking at Bear Street, looking at that was done in a way that you need to make sure that that we're building for community and rooftops. We need to know that we have children that are living in spaces that they never will be able to play because someone developed without community in mind.
Right, and just to touch on your point, I think everything you just mentioned was kind of the core of why that multiplex was brought up, because again, a lot of single-family communities, when we're looking at Forward Dallas 06, they don't want an apartment complex. They don't even want a medium-sized, multifamily. They want something that's in the same scale, but they can still afford to live there and have different options. I'm glad you brought up Bayer Street, Bonton Farms. There's a lot of product there. When you show pictures of an apartment complex or an aplex, it looks like a cluster of single-family homes until you tell them, nope, that's actually a aplex together. So when you kind of start to see what that looks like in different parts of the city, you can start to understand what people are actually wanting in these areas versus what they currently have available to select. So you're 100% just wanted to acknowledge what you mentioned.
Commissioners, let's go ahead and we have a hard stop now. We'll conclude the briefing, then we'll begin the hearing and go right back to this item. Commissioner Forsyth, followed by Commissioner Herbert. So it is 12:40, and Commissioner Blair. 12:45, that concludes the briefing of the Dallas City Planning Commission. We will need a roll call, please.
District 1,
Here.
District 2, District 3,
Here.
District 4,
Here.
District 5,
Here.
District 6,
I'm here.
District 7,
Present.
District 8,
I'm here.
District 9, District 10,
Present.
District 11, District 12,
Present.
District 13,
Here.
District 14, and District 15.
I'm here.
You have quorum, sir.
Thank you very much. We do have a quorum. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Dallas City Planning Commission. Today is Thursday, May 16th, 2024, 12:46 p.m. A couple of quick announcements before we head right back into our discussion. Our speaker guidelines